Member for Narungga.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise today to talk about a regulatory change that's going to have a significant impact on our local sporting and community clubs in Narungga, and would like to bring it to this House's attention so that it can consider changing it before it's too late. I was recently contacted by the Secretary of the Hummocks Watchman Eagles Football Club, Robin Hayes, and she brought to my attention the fact that they had recently received a grant from the Office of Rec, Sport and Racing in order to provide their players with some training guernseys. It was a wonderful thing, and the grant was warmly received by that club, but upon receiving it they were advised that as of 30 June 2025 they won't be eligible to receive any more grants because they need to satisfy certain gender quotas on their board. They were informed that there would need to be at least 40% females on their board in order for them to qualify for grant funding. Mr Speaker, I then took it upon myself, upon receiving this advice from them, to do some research and do some digging, because whilst it is an admirable aim and we acknowledge and support the fact that there needs to be more women on boards at state level and corporate level in our economy and whatnot, it's a completely different kettle of fish, I think, when it comes to our local sporting clubs and our local community clubs. Mr Speaker, so I took it upon myself to do some research, did some Googling and went and found the Office of Rec, Sport and Racing's statement on its website, which says, and I quote, "Not-for-profit organisations, including community sport and recreation organisations such as clubs and associations, will be required to meet the minimum of 40% women on their governing board/committee by 30 June 2025 to be eligible for Office for Recreation, Sport and Racing funding." So, Mr Speaker, upon receiving that update, I became a little bit concerned. I thought that there's going to be significant impact in our community, and having served on a number of community committees and sporting clubs, I know that, at least in the country, it's a case of begging people to help rather than cherry-picking certain demographics and things that will satisfy quotas, and that it would become very difficult for a great deal many clubs in my electorate to satisfy that criteria. So I did a quick little survey. It wasn't an exhaustive one, it was a quick survey, and we ended up getting 22 clubs that participated. A random sample from across the electorate, big towns, small towns, different sports, and 73% said that they expected not to be able to meet the quota of 40% women and 40% men by 30 June 2025. So that's 3/4 of our clubs that would be ineligible for funding, or grant funding, from their Office of Rec and Sport on the basis of the volunteers that they've been able to secure, they've been able to beg to help out, and it would leave them short and at a disadvantage compared to other clubs. Of those 22 clubs, 95% said that they were likely to apply for funding in the short term, and 19 of them formally opposed the gender quota policy. Some of the comments that we received, I'll quote, "In a small country community, it is so difficult to get volunteers, regardless of gender. This will mean that clubs that rely on funding will miss out. It will be devastating for some small sports clubs that don't have enough of the other gender to fill quotas." Another quote, "Being a small community club, we take what volunteers are willing to donate their time and effort. Membership comes in waves, and as our society is becoming increasingly older, we have less members putting their hands up to assist in the running of the club." And finally, Mr Speaker, another one, "This proposed legislation is farcical, another example of how government lawmakers are out of touch with community volunteers." So you can see, Mr Speaker, that there are significant concerns out there in the community about how our local sporting clubs will be able to attract funding going forward. And it is a significant issue because the sporting clubs and community clubs in my electorate are the hubs of the town. It's where people come together, it's where they meet, it's where they do their working bees and have their community gatherings. And if those clubs were unable to attract funding, it would put their very livelihood at risk and would leave that town deprived of a community hub and meeting spot. So I'll be following this up, Mr Speaker. I intend now, or have written, I should say, to the Minister and seeking a change to that to exclude community sporting clubs and not-for-profit clubs from this policy, because, as I said, it's an admirable goal to have them at a state board level, to have it at a corporate level and other such things. But I think when it comes to community sporting clubs, not-for-profit clubs, we just need everyone that's willing to help to be able to help. We need those people that are willing to put their hand up, that answer the call, to be let on the board, and the club not be at a disadvantage when it comes to seeking grant funding. So I'll be calling on the government to change this policy. I think whilst it's well-intentioned, it will have dire consequences for our community sporting clubs and, by extension, our small country towns.